Please allow me to read you a letter. A letter to the young people of Hong Kong by Andrew Vltchek. Now that your city has been in flames for more than 6 months, your family is divided, and no end to violence is in sight. I have decided to write this short essay in the form of an open letter to the young people of Hong Kong. First of all, I want to ask, why? Why all this smoke and fire, anger and violence? Were your lives, before the so-called protests or riots, really so dismal? You have been living in one of the richest cities on earth. Even according to the Western evaluations, Hong Kong has one of the highest freedom indexes, higher than that of most of the Western countries. Water that comes from your taps is clean. The internet is extremely fast, and the public transportation is cheap and one of the best in the world. You can enjoy an excellent cultural life as well as great public spaces constructed along your impressive coasts. Naturally, Hong Kong is not a perfect place, and there are no perfect places on this planet. Your housing is one of the most expensive in the world. Job opportunities for the college graduates are not really excellent. Some cities on Chinese mainland are now more exciting places to live, to create and to stream about good old Hong Kong than good old Hong Kong. But still, it is a fascinating, solid city with its own culture, mindset, and complex history. And in many ways, it is a beautiful city, beautiful and unique. So why? What happened? Why suddenly such anger and such frustration? Should we ask? Let's please. When waving the US flags, recalling your British master and their rule over Hong Kong, do you ever think about some of the most monstrous crimes committed in the history of mankind? I have worked in around 160 countries and territories on all continents. I have written about and filmed many wars and conflicts. I have been covering revolutions and rebellions, but also terrible riots ignited by the Western countries. You probably have heard about the so-called color revolutions or the Arab Spring. I have witnessed firsthand the fate of countries that has been occupied and then thoroughly destroyed by the United States and North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Afghanistan and Syria, Iraq and Colombia, to name just a few. I have seen millions of ruined lives in the nations where the West overthrew left-wing governments and then injected fascism, places like Indonesia 1965 and Chile 1973. Now there's nothing left in Indonesia. Its nature is thoroughly ruined, and the great majority lives in mystery. In Chile, people have stood up and are proud fighting and dying for socialism, which was stolen from them by the Western governments and corporations. I have lived and worked all over the African continent, the most devastated part of the world, colonized and terrorized, first by Europe and later by the United States for many centuries. In Hong Kong, I see you waving flags of the US. You want that country to save you from China, from your own nation, in essence. I read a translation of your school curriculum. It smears China and it glorifies the West. Were you told ever that in the name of that flag, consisting of stars and stripes, tens of millions of people worldwide were murdered, democracies raped, and freedom of expression horrendously oppressed? Or are you reading only what is brought to you by Reuters and other Western press agencies? When waving the UK flags, Recalling your British masters and their rule over Hong Kong, do you ever think about some of the most monstrous crimes committed in the history of mankind? On all continents of the world, the British Empire murdered, humiliated, violated, plundered hundreds of millions of people. Human beings were reduced to slaves. Their lives, identities were reduced to nothing. Were you told this? Do you realize it? When you wave these threats, when your leaders are taking bribes from the US and the EU establishment, do you ever think what kind of money you are touching? Do you ever consider this money is soaked in blood? I saw several of you demanding independence from China. I even witnessed some of you calling China a terrorist state. Have you ever seriously compared the Chinese political system to the so-called democracy in the West? Let me give you a simple quiz. In the last decades, how many countries has been attacked by China and how many by the West? Do a simple calculation, please. It is so simple, so clear. How many countries have been bombed to the ground and thoroughly ruined by China, and how many by the West? And democracy? In China, the government listens to its people. In reality, democracy means nothing more than the direct translation from the Greek rule of the people. In the People's Republic of China, the government is working to improve the lives of its citizens while building a global infrastructure for all, the Belt and Road Initiative. Now look at the West. Most of the citizens in North America and Europe hate their system, but cannot get rid of it. Some of you regularly travel to the West. Do you hear what the people are saying there? In the last 2 decades, China has lifted up hundreds of millions out of poverty. In the West, the governments have buried millions of people in misery in their colonies. Despite the terrible plunder of the world, tens of millions are destitute at home in both North America and Europe. Despite of the not too high GDP per capita, China has almost no misery. While tens of millions of US citizens are living in poverty, there are many more prisoners per capita in the US prisons than in the Chinese ones. Many US prisons are now privatized. It is a big business. The more that are held behind bars, the bigger the profit. Is this a system in which you would want to live? Is it really? I know the West very well, and I know China. These days, in Hong Kong, some of you are waving Western flags while insulting Beijing. The West has the most powerful propaganda on earth. It has the ability to twist everything, to call black white and vice versa. But frankly, it is Beijing that has the ability and the desire to help solve the problems of Hong Kong. Do you really think that Washington, London, or Berlin are genuinely interested in helping your city? I'm convinced that they only want to break China and to continue ruling over the world. To conclude this letter, let me say what has to be said. After speaking to people that are now angrily waving black banners, as well as the US and UK threats, I realized that they know very little about the state of the world, and they do not want to listen to different points of view, and confronted intellectually, they become violent. This is not a democratic approach, not at all. I suggest we talk publicly. Let me debate the very definitions of democracy. Let us discuss who has done more harm to the world, China or the West. I'm ready anytime. If the leaders of Hong Kong riots or protests are confident that they are correct, let us face each other in front of microphones and cameras. I love your city. I love Hong Kong. I love China. And I strongly believe that China and Hong Kong are one beautiful, inseparable entity. I'm ready to give my best for proving that point. The views do not necessarily reflect those of the China Daily. The author is a novelist, filmmaker, and journalist. Hope you understand what this journalist has been telling the young people of Hong Kong. Thank you.